Parents told me, "You're adopted, you get nothing when we die." Then grandma's lawyer called. She left you $2 million, and a letter about your parents' lies. I drove to their house with a smile. The lawyer's phone call came on a Tuesday morning, while I was eating cereal before my shift at the auto parts store. I almost didn't answer. Unknown numbers usually meant debt collectors or telemarketers, and I had enough problems without dealing with either. But something made me pick up on the fourth ring. "Is this Austin Caldwell?" The voice was professional, formal. "Yeah, that's me. Mr. Caldwell, this is Margaret Stevens from Stevens Bradley & Associates. I'm calling regarding the estate of Eleanor Caldwell. I believe she was your grandmother." My spoon clattered into my bowl. Grandma Eleanor had passed away 6 months ago, and I hadn't been allowed at the funeral. My parents, David and Susan Caldwell, had made it clear that I wasn't welcome. "Yes, she was my grandmother," I said carefully. "I need to schedule a meeting with you, Mr. Caldwell. There are some matters regarding her will that require your immediate attention." "I think there's been a mistake," I said. "My parents told me I wasn't included in her will. They said she left everything to them and my brother." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Mr. Caldwell, I think we definitely need to meet. Are you available this afternoon?" 2 hours later, I was sitting in a leather chair in Margaret Stevens' law office, staring at documents that made no sense. According to the papers in front of me, my grandmother had left me $2.1 million, her house, and several investment accounts. "There must be some mistake," I repeated for the third time. "My parents said I was adopted. They said Grandma Eleanor wasn't really my grandmother, that she had no obligation to me." Margaret Stevens, a woman in her 60s with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, looked at me with something that might have been pity. "Mr. Caldwell, your grandmother was very specific in her instructions. She wanted me to give you this letter personally. She handed me an envelope with my name, written in Grandma Eleanor's careful handwriting. My hands shook as I opened it. My dearest Austin, if you're reading this, then I'm gone and Margaret has finally been able to reach you. I've been trying to see you for the past 3 years, but your parents have made that impossible. I need you to know the truth about everything, because the lies your parents have told you are cruel and completely false. You are not adopted. You are my biological grandson, the son of my beloved daughter, Jennifer. Jennifer was your father, David's first wife, and she died in a car accident when you were 2 years old. David remarried Susan 6 months later, and Susan never wanted to acknowledge that you existed. She wanted David to give you up for adoption, so they could start fresh with their own children. David, to his shame, went along with this plan. But I fought for you, Austin. I threatened to take them to court for custody. I told them I would expose what they were trying to do to the whole family, the whole community. They kept you, but only because I forced their hand. Susan has resented you ever since. She's the one who told you that you were adopted, who convinced David to treat you differently from Logan and Ashley. Every cruel word, every time they excluded you, every time they made you feel like you didn't belong, that was Susan's doing, and David's cowardice in going along with it. I tried to maintain a relationship with you, but Susan made it increasingly difficult. She would cancel visits, refuse to let you answer my calls, and eventually they moved you all across the state, specifically to keep you away from me. The last time I saw you, you were 15 years old. I've missed 6 years of your life because of their selfishness. I'm leaving you everything, Austin. Not just because you're my grandson, but because you're the only one in this family who has faced hardship with dignity. I know about the community college, the jobs, the apartment you can barely afford. I know because I hired a private investigator to keep track of you when your parents wouldn't let me see you. I also know that David and Susan have been telling people that my estate will be divided equally among all the grandchildren. They've been spending money they don't have, expecting a big inheritance. They're going to be very surprised. I hope this money gives you the freedom to build the life you deserve. But more than that, I hope this letter gives you the truth you've always deserved to know. You are loved, you are wanted. You always have been. Oh my love. Grandma Eleanor. P.S. The house keys are in the safe deposit box. I hope you'll consider living there. It's been waiting for you. I read the letter 3 times before the words really sank in. Not adopted. My mother, my real mother, had died when I was 2. Susan wasn't my mother at all, just a woman who had married my father, and spent the next 19 years making me feel like an unwanted burden. The private investigator she mentioned, Margaret said gently. He documented quite a bit about your living situation. Your grandmother was very concerned about how you were being treated. She handed me another folder. Inside were photographs and reports spanning several years, pictures of me walking to work, living in my tiny studio apartment, eating ramen noodles for dinner. My grandmother had been watching over me from afar, caring about me when my own father couldn't be bothered. What do my parents think they were inheriting? I asked. Margaret smiled grimly. Your grandmother led them to believe they would receive the bulk of her estate. She'd encouraged this belief. She wanted them to spend money they didn't have, thinking they'd be able to pay it back with their inheritance. How much money did they spend? Based on what your grandmother told me, and what the investigator observed, quite a lot. Your father bought a new truck last year, $65,000. Your mother remodeled their kitchen, another $40,000. Your brother Logan got a boat for his birthday, $30,000. They've been living well above their means. I thought about my own life during that same period. Working 50 hours a week at the auto parts store, taking night classes at community college, living on peanut butter sandwiches, and instant coffee. While my family was spending my grandmother's money before they even had it, I was struggling to pay for basic necessities. What exactly did they inherit? I asked. Margaret consulted her papers. Each of your siblings received $5,000. Your parents received nothing. 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 Your grandmother was very clear that David had forfeited his right to inherit when he chose his new wife over his own son. I sat back in my chair trying to process everything. $2 million, a house, the truth about my identity, and my family who had treated me like garbage for 21 years, have been cut out entirely. There's one more thing, Margaret said. Your grandmother requested that I be present when you inform your family about the inheritance. She wanted a witness to their reaction. That's how I found myself driving to my parents' house, the next evening with a lawyer in my passenger seat, and a cashier's check for $2.1 million in my jacket pocket. I hadn't been to the house in over a year. Not since my father told me I was too old to be looking for handouts. When I asked to borrow money for textbooks, the house looked the same from the outside. Upper middle-class suburban perfection with a new truck in the driveway, and perfectly manicured landscaping. Susan answered the door, and her expression immediately soured when she saw me. Austin, what are you doing here? We need to talk, I said, all of us. It's about Grandma Eleanor's will. Her expression shifted to something calculating. Oh, well, I suppose you should come in. She led us into the living room where my father was watching TV, and my siblings, Logan and Ashley, were on their phones. The room had been redecorated since my last visit. New furniture, new paint, new expensive-looking artwork on the walls. David, Susan called, Austin's here about Eleanor's will. My father looked up, and I could see the exact moment he noticed Margaret Stevens, in her professional suit, carrying a briefcase. Who's this? He asked. Margaret Stevens, she said, extending her hand.